Introduce a little anarchy. Upset the established order, and everything becomes chaos. I'm an agent of chaos.
Welcome to Medline 87 Motovlogs.
What's up, guys? So I've had these block-off plates. This is the kit here. 1 block-off plate, 2 block-off plate, and this is an intake hose. Basically cap that will go on. Oh wow, look at the dirt. That will go on this plug here. So what we're doing is we're installing driven block-off plates, and we're getting rid of the PAR valve, which I believe is past air something recirculator. Basically it takes old burn-up oil, or excuse me, not oil, old burn-up air that's been passed through the intake once, recycles it and puts it back into the intake. You'll notice some bikes with exhaust systems, they make a lot of backfiring when you get off the throttle and you start to slow down. It backfires a lot. That's from the PAR valve, and really what it is just a tool to keep emissions down. So I've already got the airbox taken out. There's the bottom of the airbox. This is basically the inlet that goes into my fairing stay to let all the air in. This is the top of the airbox. This is the ECU. I believe these are plugs for the injectors. There's a fuel line. The velocity stacks are off. There's the throttle bodies. So what we're looking at is this, and there's my throttle cables, and this here. And I believe this is the actuator or whatever. Basically whatever makes the whole system work. So we're pulling that out. This hose is no longer used, so that's going to come out. It's going to free up a little bit of room. It's going to give the bike a lot more clean air, and it's really a performance enhancement, but you shed a little bit of weight at the same time. So I've already got a full tune. I've got the full exhaust. I've got the filter, which is over there. So this is really the last step, and my tuner tuned my bike by somehow bypassing this system. He tuned it, he put it all back together and said, get block-off plates. Well, I haven't had the nerve to try it. I don't even know if this is going to work, but I'm going to give it a shot. I do recognize this piece and this piece. This hose runs all the way to this actuator. So it starts here, it runs through this, and there's a T. Hopefully you can see that right there. So what I did see here is this is actually the center where the intake, I believe, screws down into the body of the bike. So we're going to need to retain this bracket here, but after looking further, unless this bracket is connected to the top of this, it's screwed down with this last bolt. So hopefully when I get this apart, this can come out and we won't have any issues. And then also I can retain this, put the block-off plates on, put this bracket on top of it, torque it all down, and I'll still have somewhere for my airbox to basically thread into the bike so it's not moving around. And then this hose will be capped off and this whole hose assembly will be removed. So I'm going to get working on that and see if it works. What I'm using here is basically just your standard 1/4-inch ratchet with an extension and an 8mm socket. I'll probably have to take the extension off to get down in here, or I can just move the hose off completely. The reason for the video is I've never seen a block-off plate install for a Daytona. I've seen a couple of them that Sport Bike Track Gear did that were actually pretty good and gave me a general idea of how this whole system goes together. But I haven't seen one on the Daytona. So hopefully, if this works, one of you guys can use this as kind of a basis on how to do yours. So stay tuned. So I got everything loose, and as I expected, this bracket is actually loose. These pins held this actuator here in place. But the main reason I need it is because I believe it goes like this on the block-off plate. This is where the bottom of my airbox is going to thread back in. So here's one. Leave the reed in place. I read that you take the reed out, you're going to have major problems. The problem I'm running into is I've already undid both of these. I don't know what they are, but it's pretty simple because the wiring harness doesn't move. So my only dilemma is now is getting this fucking thing out of here because it is wired and snaked in everything. You don't want to just go ripping shit, but I also don't want to start cutting shit in case it's fucked up. So this whole unit here, this whole U-shaped fucking thing for emissions, Ugh. So I just want to give an update. This is where we're at. I'm going to get this out and get the block-off plates put on. And hopefully we're all set. Everything else looks pretty good. So here we go. Alright, so as you can see, I got all the plumbing out of the way. This was the plug that connected to all this. Hopefully this doesn't throw a code at me. I don't need to zip tie to anything because really there's nothing for it to get to. As you can see, it frees up quite a bit of room in here. I'm kind of impressed. Here's the unit here, and it went together something like this. And we cleaned all that crap out of the bike. So what we're going to do now is we're going to put on, now you do use the stock fasteners. You can Loctite them. I've heard some people do, some people don't. STG didn't do theirs because they said it had Loctite already. These bolts didn't come with Loctite, so I'm going to put a little bit of blue Loctite on there. I've wiped the reeds up a little bit. I don't want to do a whole bunch of wiping in because there's some dirt in there. I don't want anything getting into them. So next up, I guess we bolt these puppies up with a little Loctite and put our bracket on and go from there. Alright, I'm going to set up my phone. Try and give you guys a little side-by-side. So the block-off plates are on. I realized that this bracket here connects to both holes. So that was a learning experience. The way these are positioned, I actually put it on backwards the first time. Then I realized that the back of the reed was showing, but I didn't see it immediately because that bracket was in the way. So technically these are installed. So I don't think, I got both of these, I don't know what those are, probably injector sensors or something. Those are plugged in, they're tight. The only thing loose down here is that plug, which is what went into the intake portion of this. Oops, sorry about my hand there. Yeah, so this is the only thing that's unplugged. So I'm gonna run this. I just want it out of the fucking way. But I probably should have thought about that before I remounted this. Okay, whatever, it's fine. Right there. Alright, so back to this. So these are in. My hole for my intake is still there. So I should just be able to check my connections and put everything else on. The only other thing I have to do is actually I might want to run, I don't know if I want to run a zip tie there or not. I don't know, I'll decide. Because it's really not doing anything there. Fuck it, I'll run a zip tie, do it anyways. So right now I'm going to check all the other connectors. And I'm going to take my air box, and we are on the left side. Thank you, Pitbull stand. And this is the last piece of the kit. And all this is going to do is slide over this. And I'll run a zip tie around it and make sure it doesn't come off. And we'll be all set. So let's start reassembly. So I was about to zip tie this. There's my zip ties. And I said, wait a minute. I have a whole bunch of hose connectors from the factory that I'm not using. So, voila. There you have it. This is the way I'm going to leave this on here. Alright, so with everything removed, block-off plates are on. This plug, I've since learned, cannot be left unconnected or you will get a check engine light. So a buddy of mine makes these resistors. What this is going to do, it's going to tell the bike that the solenoid is still plugged in or something similar. Now you can leave the solenoid plugged in, that's really the bulk weight of the unit. So the resistor was 20 bucks I think, well worth it. It's an OEM plug, so I'm going to use this instead. So we will connect this like so, and we're clear. What I'm going to do is I'm going to run this, and I'm going to run a zip tie around this. That way nothing is flopping around. I'll probably run it like this, where it's horizontal, and I'll run a zip tie through that so it doesn't obstruct our airbox in any way. So I will get that zip tied up and show you what it looks like. Alright, so the resistor is in, it's zip tied, it's not going to obstruct the duct from my airbox. It's in there snug, nothing's pinched, all the wires look good. Alright, so bottom airbox is ready to go back in, throttle bodies can go back in. Wait a minute. So at this point, plates are on, plates are snug. The velocity stacks can go back on after I put the base of the airbox on. Put the top back on and fire her up. Let's give a close-up of what everything looks like. We got a block-off plate here, plate here, resistor there. Everything's tucked up out of the way. So we should be all set. So let's see what happens. So we got the base of the airbox in place. I've got the rubber frame insert put in, and I'm got a little bit of dust in here, so I'm just going to blow this off with an air gun because you don't want stuff going down into the throttle bodies because it's just never a good thing. And we'll do that again once we get the velocity stacks put back on, get everything bolted in. Alright, so the block-off plates are on, tank's been bolted up, seat's been put back on, the resistor's in, all the plumbing's been zip tied so there shouldn't be any interference, airbox is on and tight, all my connectors have been reconnected to their proper spots. So let's do a startup and make sure we don't have any check engine lights and go from there. Well, that means the resistor's doing what it's supposed to. It's telling the bike there's something plugged in. So it looks like we're good. So block offs are complete. Here's the stuff I took off. There's the solenoid, plate 1 and 2. This went into the airbox. This has got some decent amount of weight to it. There's where the reeds are used to go in. But got them all buttoned up, so I'm happy with it. The install wasn't as bad as I thought it would be, but yeah, it's good. So what? Letting the bike warm up. Just make sure everything's good. Mwah! Such a good girl.